Well, joining us live now is the Middle East Director at the International Communities Organisation, Gershon Baskin, who was also the negotiator between Israel and Hamas for the release of a soldier back in 2011. Gershon, good to see you. Thanks for your time this morning. So how does one negotiate with Hamas?
Well, it's very difficult, as the Qatari minister said. And I think that they're on the brink of an agreement for a ceasefire and the release of the women, the children, the elderly, the sick, and the wounded. This is what it should be, not just a call for civilians, because Hamas considers almost every Israeli a soldier. So we need to be very specific that we expect the women, the children, the elderly, the sick, and the wounded to be freed. I believe that Israel is prepared to enter into a ceasefire in order to enable the agreement to be implemented and to give space and time for dealing with the humanitarian disaster that's unfolding in Gaza with the extensive Israeli bombing there. 7,000, 8,000 people already killed. It's really tragic. But I want to point out that one of the issues that seems to be blocking an agreement now is the Hamas demand that Israel allow fuel to enter Gaza. Hamas claims that they need the fuel for the hospitals, but it's also been documented that Hamas stole fuel from the United Nations inside of Gaza. Hamas needs the fuel for its tunnels, which are underneath the entire Gaza Strip, because they need to pump in air and they need it for their war machine. So I would like to suggest to the Qatari minister, as they are hosting the leadership of Hamas in Qatar, that they provide, accompany the fuel trucks going into Gaza to the hospitals. Let's move this issue off the table so that the hospitals do get the fuel that they need, and let the Qataris, who I've said have hosted Hamas for years and have funded Hamas with more than $1 billion over the years, to accompany those fuel trucks to the hospitals in Gaza.
Okay, a few points there in such a short space of time, but I mean, they also use the fuel to fire the rockets, don't they?
Oh, they use the fuel for lots of things, but they claim that they've run out of fuel. They have no fuel. We know that they stole the fuel from the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA.
Okay, so how long do you think a ceasefire would have to last for to get all those hostages out? And can Hamas be trusted on that point, by the way?
I've talked about this with several of the Hamas people that I'm in contact with, and they believe that holding the soldiers as hostage would be deterrence against Israel launching the ground information. They can think that. I don't think it will hold Israel back in the ground operation, where they will seek to free the hostages, the remaining hostages, through special operations and special forces. Hamas expects to be able to free all of its prisoners from Israeli prisons. They freed 1,027 prisoners with one Israeli soldier, so they expect holding 60, 70 Israeli soldiers, that they'll be able to free all the prisoners. I don't think the current mood in Israel will allow that kind of negotiation to take place.
That's right. I mean, they still want to go in and completely dismantle Hamas, right? It's military operations. I mean, we can still expect the ground invasion to take place. We can still expect bombing to take place, despite, talk of a ceasefire and hostages being released.
It seems that way. It seems that the Israeli army and the government are prepared to go in. They're waiting to try to exhaust every possibility to get the civilian hostages out of Gaza, the women, the children, the elderly, the sick, and the wounded, as soon as possible. And it seems that Israel will go into Gaza to complete its mission of dismantling Hamas's ability to ever attack Israel again.
Okay, Gershon Baskin, good to have you with us this morning. Appreciate that. We'll talk to you again soon, see how that all progresses. Yeah, some interesting points there.